sorry about the TV. It literally was working until the first person showed up and then it turned off. All right, thank you, Google Visitor Experience / The Huddle. I will say happy trails to Isabella. Isabella, she is the one I normally work with. She has since recently taken a new opportunity, but still thank you to Isabella and team. All right, my name is Ron. You can call me Ron. You see some of these stickers here. I'll just go through the list. The Internet Society is one of the groups I run around with. I'm the chair of the Silicon Valley, San Francisco chapter. The Internet Society is kind of, simplifying it, but they're the ones who manage the internet. So you may have heard of the IETF, ICANN, those kinds of groups. Those are subgroups under the Internet Society, and that is their logo. And the foundation used to just be the Internet Society. They have recently, well, not recently, 4 years ago, split, and the foundation is now where all the money is, right? And then all the work is done on the Internet Society side of the house. So if you have any questions about that, we do a lot of work. There will be other members here. ACM is another group I'm with. So the ACM is the Professional Society for Computer Scientists. It's a global operation just like the Internet Society. As of last week, up until Wednesday, I was the chair of the Silicon Valley chapter. Karthik is now our chair. If you happen to be in programming and like to talk to other programmers, this would be a good place to go. We have 2 to 3 meetings a month, most of them down here in Mountain View. I live up in the city, so trying to start having more, part of me not being chair will give me more time to put on events in San Francisco, just because it's a long commute. So please check that out if you like programming. And then, these other groups I run around with, do a lot of work. I do a lot of work in AI. My day job, I am a consultant. And so I do a lot of prototyping, a lot of auditing of other people's systems. Nowadays, or for the last few years, it's all AI, of course. So trying to navigate that, which is kind of what brings us to this topic. All right, so I've done talks in similar veins, and thanks to those who've come back. Really, at a high level, I try to talk about tech and society. For me, it's for a couple of reasons. One is I have a kid who had to go through COVID and then go through other things. And so, it just got me thinking that I really didn't know much about how the world is evolving. As much kind of technical stuff that I know doesn't mean I know what society's doing, right? Or vice versa. So that's actually what got me, even though I've been part of, say, the ACM since the 90s, I didn't really do much with that. So I decided around the beginning of COVID to get involved with as many things as I could to see, make sure I could understand the world at large, and then hopefully one day help someone like my kid and others navigate this more, I don't want to call it technocratic world, but technology-infused world, right? And so what do we need to be on the lookout for? So all that's online, and if you have any questions, comments about any of those things, please, and there's other ones too, please feel free to contact me. All right, so today, and that kind of got cut off. Hopefully that'll work. That's the QR code for this particular presentation. We can adjust that at the end if we need to. So how tech is reshaping our future is the kind of marketing title. The original title was The Societal Contract in an Aging World, Discussion of Technology, Demography, and Institutional Lag. So what got me into this topic? I'll kind of just describe what the idea is. There's kind of 2 tracks. There's you as an individual and all the things you're capable of doing. And then there's these larger outfits, these larger groups, these larger institutes that do something for many of us, right? And so the idea is if technology is evolving so fast and it has all this, in theory, we'll say positive impact, we can do more, we can make more, there's more money, right? There's all these things. Do these institutions still hold? Like should, for example, when we'll talk about a Social Security, just as an example, Should it stay the same, right? People are always, knocking at its door to tweak it, especially for politicians, but never really so much about the conversation about technology. Like, how is that going to impact those kinds of things, right? Because we feed each other, right? Those institutions are fed by you, right? So if all of a sudden you're 1.5 times more productive and they used all these stats from 20 years ago, to guide them into the future, what does that actually mean, right? So that's kind of the idea, right? Should these institutions change? Should they not change? And this is really for you too, right? I don't clearly have an answer to this. I'm just trying to model it to actually get me thinking, what might we do? And maybe take that next step. So being part of those groups I was mentioning earlier, there is a lot of smart people. And I'm sure there's a lot of smart people here. The people who do politics, the people who run the judiciary and the legislative branches, they are looking today for input from you, right? Amicus briefs to the court, people running for local senate here, they look for advice on what, is the AI going to do to us just here in this region, right? So people are asking at the top who actually have power, and it would behoove us to actually have something to say about it, hopefully with some background. So what is the societal contract? So I am no philosopher, as much as I like it, but this term comes up in a lot of books over how society is modeled. And so I just kind of use that as the target, right? This is kind of the promise between two parties on how we effectively interact. And if we're talking about society, we're talking about things like those institutional level things like Social Security, or if you come from a monarchy, those kinds of behaviors and expectations, right? There's some kind of dealings there. Society itself, though, can be just two people, personal kind of contacts. It could be groups of people. It could be a national level, right? There's all kinds of groupings at different societal levels. And what do we want from this? Well, in theory, and this isn't meant to be taken as socialism or anything like that, all for one and one for all, right? This is kind of the dream of how society should kind of operate. But what do we actually see? What we see is things like this, right? At an institutional level affecting you, and then even at your house, right? Some societies actually will take care of their parents, and others don't, right? And so those things all can be affected by technology. So why the aging part? So just to kind of have some more focus on this without being too political, as we age, our bodies break down, and there's things we can do to delay that. There's things that are available to us from a technology-wise, right, that could help us be more participatory in society. All right, so we'll look at some examples of that coming up. But again, it's not just the tech, right? There's these institutes where you'll get Social Security, right? And if that changes, how does that impact you? Well, again, taking a view of just technology and all this, how might that all change going forward? So we'll talk about some of the potential economic changes that may be coming regarding wage and income and things like that. Now, in this case, aging, we do care about it, right? Social Security being one example. Ida Mae Fuller, you may or may not have heard of her. She was the first recipient of monthly Social Security checks in the United States. Prior to her, there were people who would get one-off amounts, but not the regular monthly amount. But you can already see, even with minimal technology, this is not something easily modeled. She paid for 3 years, so she was 62, I guess, something like that. Retired, and then lived another 35 years, which is not what the Social Security Administration wanted to see, right? Because at that time, their model said, you will be retired for 12 years, right? Not for 35 years, right? So, why is that? So let me ask you that. Why is that? How were they off so bad about Ida? And think about the time frame. This is like in the late 40s, early 50s.
Well, that's one person.
Why did the SSA get it so wrong, right? Like, why did they had to pay her for decades longer than they anticipated?
People live longer now than they expected.
Now, but this is the 40s.
That was just, that's just one person, right? It's just one person.
Yeah.
So on average, they probably did live 12 or 13 years, right?
Yeah, it's all those things, right? She's an outlier. People were even getting better then, right? And that's just, kind of the point of this talk is like that keeps accelerating, right? And if the system doesn't change, how does this all kind of come together, right? So yeah, anyway, she's the first example. It was like, look at this program. As much to their chagrin about this, she was also a hero to them because they had the money, right? So when Social Security started, it went from zero to a lot of money, right? Because everyone started paying in, so they had the money to pay her out. But that's not the case today.
Those were the good old days, right?
The good old days. The good old days. Yeah, so it's all those things you're just kind of alluding to, right? Sanitation, vaccines, all these things. And what are these? A lot of this is technology. I would even say sanitation is technology. Simply the message of clean up. Just repeatedly telling people to clean up takes tools and things to do, much less designing vaccines and other things, right? So again, this is still a problem today, this modeling. How long are we going to live? Right now, we're actually in a period supposedly of decline, but you see in the news saying it's going up. So again, like all things, there's going to be two stories, especially in this, crazy, jaded news market today. All right, so what do we do about this? So next part is, I just want you to think about what have we done in the past. So we're not going to go through all these. This is just more of just kind of in your face. If you could slice and dice, just focusing on the U.S., just to keep it a little more focused. We've had lots of eras, and things have happened at the individual tech level for capabilities and at the societal level. So just one to kind of think about is income tax. So when did income tax start?
1930.
Oh, yeah, officially. When was it attempted? I guess maybe a better question. When was it first attempted?
Probably Civil War, probably.
Yeah. So I mean, you could ask the British. They tried earlier, but yeah, it was the Civil War. So the Civil War, right afterwards, as a method to pay for it, it lasted about a year, and the Supreme Court took it away. But even in that year, they had to actually deal with the logistics of implementation. Like, how do you actually go get the money from people, right? And so that actually led to innovations in technology, right? From transport, from even just scheduling, right? Towns would have individual tax collectors, right? So you'd have all these thousands of tax collectors. You have to have all the technology around them, right? So that's really, through all these periods, things, industrial era, up to like things we start to recognize today, like income tax. So things that influenced how we did that work, one is, of course, the population. Take it with a grain of salt how accurate my transparent population line here is, but it is going up for the most part. And again, that leads us to things like Social Security. Do we have enough people to fund it? Well, according to them, we'll see a slide later, the answer is no. In about 8 years, we will be running about 85% capacity to pay people back, right, with no change. And that's not the first time that's happened, but we'll talk more about that later. But again, population has an effect on this and the tools we use. The means of production have somewhat changed. You always hear in the news that America is bad at producing things. We're actually producing more now than we have ever in the past. Now, I would say the second question might be, so what? Maybe it's not enough, right? So maybe that's the real argument is, yeah, we're relative to ourselves, we're doing more than we've ever done. But compared to other parts of the world, maybe, again, that's something we're still lacking on. But again, it changes. And it's not, production here is normally talking about imports, exports, and all the things in between. I would say, especially here in Silicon Valley, it's more than that. It's us, typing at keyboards, producing things, and now, of course, we have AI producing things. So how is that going to change this, right? So there's a lot to think about here. Again, just where the production is coming from. Are we just selling software to the machines, or do we have the machines themselves? And again, life expectancy is another big part of this. And these kind of high-level metrics are the same things that the Fed uses, right? When they produce all of the FRED material, these are the same kind of high-level things that they're tracking, and of course, all the studies that fill in this kind of data. All right. So what kind of technology have we seen over the years? So we're not going to go through a bunch, just a couple. Right. So in the very early years, we had the sun. Right. Has anyone seen this paper or read this paper? Right. So firelight talk among the Juhanzi Bushmen. So Professor Wisner, she was in, I believe this is in about Central Africa, South Central Africa, where she was. And basically what she was doing was tracking what this group of people were doing just throughout the day. She wasn't trying to judge or categorize. She's just like, what are you doing, right? And when and how, and just get the logistics of it. And what it led to was basically at the time very earth-shattering. So, right, you would normally, through human history, get up when the sun started, and you would go to sleep. And that was your day, right? If you did anything else, you were dead, is more or less what her paper says. Like, if you walked away from the village, you were in trouble, right? But along came something. Fire. So now, the point of her paper is based on her study, this group is one of the few remaining groups on Earth, in theory, to be living in similar ways to thousands of years ago. And that's why she was studying them. And so she's like, all right, well, they have fire, so what are they doing during the day? And then what do you do when there's fire? So you can imagine you have more hours, you could do more things, but even there was some limitations. So what are some limitations with having fire? Just say you're operating with your family. What might you not want to do?
Leave it unattended.
Yeah, leave it unattended. What else? What happens when you go too far away from the fire? Yeah, you're back to being dark and cold. The hyenas are going to get you at that point. And that's basically what the paper says. It's like the villages operated around the fires, and basically if you left the range of the fire, no one was coming to help you. It was kind of like what they told each other. They're like, hey man, you're on your own if you're like going in the dark over there, right? And so there was the world before light after dark, and then after. Now obviously they had fire much longer, so she's kind of trying to thread that needle. So value add, right? Fire is a good thing. All right, so why though? So this is kind of what the ultimate details of our paper is about. And some people agree, of course, some people disagree. And what it's more or less alluding to here is you have certain topics in the day, certain topics at night. In the day, before fire, they believed you actually did, for example, talk more stories during the day. So that took a piece of the pie, right? But then at night, it became very clear we didn't need these sit-down, longer stories during the day, cutting away from our workday, because we could do it at night around the campfire, right? And because of that, how the kind of verbal oral tradition continues was most of that happens at night with fire versus during what was during the day. But it was believed prior to fire that would happen here, but much lesser degree. So again, you could argue is fire technology, is it not a technology? I'd argue it's a technology, especially once you corral it But then you can see it has an impact on how you do things. And that's really what the point of this is, right? Some technology comes along, you were doing one thing beforehand, now you're doing something after. Is that good? Is it bad? Who gets to judge? And how does that impact us or all of us? All right. So, that's not where that story ends.
Were they hunters or agriculture people?
Hunters.
Hunters?
Hunters.
And so how did Polly sit there with them for multiple years without sort of disturbing the dynamic here?
I don't have an answer to that. Good question, but yeah. To that point, I will say people did counter. Did she lead the story or not? You know, like there's like any study, right? So yeah.
Oh, you mean people had other opinions?
Yeah. But you were absolutely correct. Kind of hard to do, but impressive nonetheless, even if she half attempted it.
Impressive, yeah.
So what's wrong with light and fire? Well, this is actually the main counter arguments to her story about it being a benefit is thanks to Edison, we now have light 24 hours a day, right? Some people will say that's good, some will say it bad. You got the whole blue light with iPhones, and now there's all a bunch of papers now in the last year saying that that's actually not the problem, right? So I'm no expert in any of that. But again, I think the more of the message is that light is here, it is a technology that we are benefiting from, and it's fairly recent, right? The fire story goes back 300,000 years. In fact, they just announced, I think it's in South Africa, they just announced the earliest signs of controlling fire, like just a month ago, right? Something like 300-something thousand years ago. So that's been around. This, though, has only been around since, 1860-ish, 70-ish, somewhere around there, right? But it spread very, very fast, all right? So thoughts on this? Does anybody think between sunset and sunrise that our modern tech is a problem, or is it a benefit? Would we be collectively better if we all went to sleep at sunset? No? Why no?
Well, I mean, for one thing, it's a global economy now. So, you sleep here, somebody else is awake. So you need this ability to communicate, I think, and to interact. It really is a 24-hour-a-day thing. You sleep during your own slice, but everything else keeps going.
Right, that's true.
Anyone else? Yeah.
We had a four sleep over here. Thank you, David.
I think it's mainly because of the evolution, similar to what you said. In the time when we didn't have the fire, people have to adapt to that type of lifestyle. And now we have advent of all these things. So that's why we have the daylight savings. So to maximize the daytime, what we can do, and the whole thing have changed over the period.
Agree. So we're for more light.
I'll just advocate for it as well. I think it helps bring, like in a global context, remove the economics out of it, just people together more, right? So because we have the 24 hours a day, light, and then the technology to connect, we get a chance to actually connect with different cultures, different peoples in ways that I don't think that it would have never happened. We would still be in silos.
Right.
But I'm also inclined to say that we don't sleep enough. And when you don't have enough sleep, it affects your health and your well-being, what does that mean with society as a whole? Collectively, a lot. There are people who are burning out. How long do any of you stay in a job or with an organization that you love, but you're burned out?
Mm-hmm.
Check the quality of your sleep, not just the quantity, how many hours, but the quality of sleep. And it does matter to your health and the collective health of others.
Dave, did you want to say? No? Okay. All right. Yeah, right. I guess I'll throw my own 2 cents here. I would agree we don't get enough sleep. I personally wish there was some way to just turn it off. Like I suffer from shiny object syndrome. So I'm like, ooh, that, like every night. Like I would be nice if I could just like done. So yeah, more sleep would be, I think, a good thing. But yes, to all the benefits as well. But I will actually say, even without light, you could still meet. It's kind of a forcing function, right? Now you probably meet less because you're not virtual or driving or other things, but yeah. All right, very good. So yeah, we have a tech. It's been around a long time, and light is the concern. Now this is a slide. You don't have to read all it. This is just a slide I used at a talk the other day. The point being is we'll just say from a computer programmer point of view, we have evolved, and that's really what this is about. Is like we have evolved in our capabilities, and this is true of other jobs as well. I happen to be computer science by training, so it's just something I have more to say about. Even just since the 40s, we've evolved quite a bit. And again, part of the reason for these talks is really what's happening in the here and now, right? Single AI agent, multiple agents, how is that changing individuals now? So it didn't take very long. There's, I forget the name, but there was a study where something like if 20% of all white collar jobs was 1% more efficient, and this was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago at this point, that was the single biggest GDP increase of anything that has ever happened. Just 1% of 20% of a particular job, not even the manufacturing side, right? And so obviously you got to chase all that down and confirm it or not, but we'll just say I think everyone would agree AI has had a major impact. Now, of course, we could argue there's a lot of slop as well, but being on the positive side here, what is happening here as an individual? So just a couple of things. We went from you would go program to now you narratively describe what you want and have the agent build it for you, and you still may or may not be involved with that. And then the next step is the other agents to deploy the thing, to confirm it's working. But it's even more than that, right? And this is the part where I think a lot of people are potentially not seeing it early, and this is why we like to meet and have these discussions all the time. Right, Keith? And so I think there's a project I always like to point out, one called Project Nanda, Nanda. So it's out of MIT. And one of the things they're doing is trying to take the reverse approach. They're like, all right, agents are going to be everywhere. 1 trillion agents. Is the world ready for that? And so for them, they're taking a couple different views. One of it is a technical view. Like, is the internet just going to structurally be able to deal with this, right? DNS, routing, all those kinds of things. Can you handle 1 trillion autonomous things? Security, right? And the next part was, I think even arguably more interesting, is for their work, they needed to focus on a topic that people actually care about. Most people don't care whether DNS can handle 1 trillion people talking to each other, right? Some do, of course. But people do care about commerce. So one of the things they're focusing on is the whole kind of reverse auction setup. So the idea is I'm a person, I talk to an agent, and I just simply say, I want to go on vacation in August for 2 weeks. I got $10,000, make it happen, right? And that's it. You may have more interaction. But then the interesting part is that agent kind of has a choice of 2 worlds. Today's world is centralized, right? You got like Priceline, Expedia, right? Your agent may just go to them and get the whole shebang figured out, right? An alternative is you don't go to a centralized place and you negotiate with other sources. But who are the other sources? The other sources today are still those silos largely. You may go to Expedia and Priceline and just get the best deal. What they're predicting is that there's going to be a lot of more proprietary, smaller operations where the bots are just negotiating with each other, right? But that leads to a whole slew of other concerns, right? What if one of them reneges at some point, right? Like, how are you as a human going to be knowing, oh yeah, there's 400 bots all talking about me, right, over this 2-week period of time? How do I get a receipt? that they did the dance, right? Who do I complain to? Is it another bot? Is it a person, right? Is it some proxy company, right? So all those things, like, are those bots licensed? Are they regulated? Are they this? Are they that? Right? It's not quite the same. There's been cases where you chat with someone in an online chat and you're promised something and you don't get it and you go to court and you actually win, right? Is that something that could still happen today, right? The bot told you something, made it up or lied or couldn't execute it. Do you take the bot to court, right? We can't really say because this is all new. So let me ask y'all this. Who here is using one agent to do even just a little work? Right, so it's like a third. Anyone using it full time? Okay, Patrick. He's actually a robot. Anyone using more than one? Yeah, you have to impress each other. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so let me ask you this. Why not use it all the time?
Don't want to let go of control.
True. That's a very good one.
I think it's knowing how to use it, use it that much. You
So-
really know the words, how you can say it again?
Yeah, sorry.
I think, to use it full time, you need to be a pro, right? You need to know how to work it and what you can do with it. I feel like I'm much more on the learning curve rather than the pro level,
I would agree with that.
Yeah, having used one full time, I'm starting to wonder how good it really is, that workflow for your mental health, and feel like possibly it's a source of anxiety and actually it's difficult to work with. So.
David.
Can you just expand on that? What kind of anxiety and what difficulties are you facing? Thank you.
Back to you, Patrick.
We should talk offline.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think those are all good things. I'll just speak for myself. I would actually say I use the chat interfaces more than agents for what I do, because I think to some level of control, I'd rather give a piece of what I'm doing to the chat and see what it can guide me to do, and then still have, I think, just some of that logical control versus just carte blanche, full control. Just as an example, I worked on a project. This has been a while, but I think it's pretty standard now. A couple of years ago, I built a feature into an existing project by hand. This is open software. Took me about 3 weeks. It's just part-time, just banging away at it, trying to help this project out. Oddly enough, the particular thing was about using AI from the project's point of view. But it took 3 weeks, and it took a lot of hunting people and trying to understand things and whatnot. And part of it was relearning. Like, I worked on it 2 days ago, then I forgot what I was doing. So it's good at those kinds of things. So lots of ways to improve. So then a year goes by, so it was about a year ago. I was like, hey, redo that. So I checked out the code before, because you can go back in time, checked it out then and had the code do it, or the AI coding agent do it. And it did it in about 6 minutes. And that was the whole shebang, testing. I looked at the code. It looked very similar to what I had done. For all I know, it trained on what I had done because it'd been a year. But that really, I didn't really care about that. But I think at that point, it really hit me that there's going to be ways we can use these things. But then, there's all the knock-on effects. So one that I've been harping on, it's actually the talk I did for this last week over at Intuit, was if we're so much faster, I think we create a lot of problems. What should we care about? What should we verify, and how do we verify? So in the world of software, you have the software bill of materials, right? Your code came from this repo. It was committed at this time. It was compiled at this point. It was delivered at that point, right? We have, quantifiable data. What we don't have and this is this is my personal opinion, I think we have a huge hole in the software industry on verification. It builds something. You can say all the things you want. It built it, and then the question is it really what you wanted? Right? It may even do exactly what you said until the year 2030 on January 1st when it decides to format your hard drive, because you didn't write it. You don't know what it has in there, right? And so that's, to me, that's is a two-part thing. One is there's a semantic analysis that needs to happen. It generated some output. Does this actually lead back to the input you actually wanted? Which I don't think we're very good at. Look at any software company with multiple product managers who are adding hundreds of features over the years. No one asked you to make hundreds of features, right? But we have to justify our positions in doing things. And so that nonstop changing, I don't think we can actually take, forget AI for a moment. I don't think we can even go to a pseudo-deterministic company and say, run this imaginary program that's going to analyze Jira, Confluence, GitHub, all the things, and tell me step by step how all this got to what you currently shared with us, your app. I don't think we can do it. And part of it is there's no tool that does that, so I think we're just missing the tool. Right? We can do bits and pieces, but we don't get that holistic story. And again, if we can't actually track in a deterministic sense how we get to something, that's just going to get harder. Right? To me, the probabilistic nature of AI is kind of ringing of remember the big O kind of things of computer science. There's NP and complexity and things like that. To me, this is more complex. It's faster to do, but leads to more complex problems, and we just don't have the tools to deal with it. So back to what we're talking about, if we are more efficient, we'll be positive about it. We're more efficient. How do we benefit from that? If you're 1.1, be real conservative here. If you're just 1% more efficient at your job, should anything change? Should you get paid more? Should you get paid less because it's doing it for you? Like, what should change, if anything?
You get to sleep a little bit more.
Yes. So yeah, we're back to what we started with. We can sleep now during the day as the agent is doing the work. I like that. No stance, you don't feel you should get paid more or less? Or the same?
You got paid for subscriptions. You pay more subscriptions, and also you got to worry about your job. In recent time, I got a legal case, and instead of consult my lawyer, I consult the AI, and then I fix it. And I saved a couple $1,000, and yeah.
And they didn't pay you for it?
So I don't have to pay my lawyer.
Oh, I see. Other way. Yes.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Very cool.
So I want to take us back to when washing machines were invented and a lot of electric appliances we have in our homes, and they saved us a lot of time, but we created more work to do in the meantime. So I still give thanks for my washing machine and my dryer, and I can be leaving to go to a social event and say, my clothes are being washed, my dishes are being washed, all these things are happening at home, and I can go out and play, which is, a time-saving thing. So what changed? I have more free time. Or more work.
Yes. Yes, yes. Yeah.
I was just going to add, I think the unit of economics are starting to change, right? So we used to get paid billable hour, right? Like for your time. Your time is, as an employee, predicated on you being in a seat for 8 hours a day, every day. I think things are slowly shifting to just outcome-based pricing. So I'm 1% faster, the value of the output that I'm putting out still has whatever that value is. So I don't know if it's being paid more or less. I think some things will go down, some things will go up, but I think the way we look at how we pay is changing.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It is, as consultants, it is hard to to justify now. Well, shoot, I can't talk about that. But we'll just say there's people out there who still want you to do it the old way. But then, we'll say in the public sphere, they very much want you to be as fast as you can. But again, it goes back to the quality. And a lot of people just care about the here and now. This app does what I need it to do. You're done in 5 minutes. I bought you lunch. Leave me, go away, consultant. I very much fear this. But I also love it. I love the anxiety is the wrong word for fun, but I like the volatility of all this. So agents are here. And of course, there's people who are trying to avoid all of this, right? We'll just call that the artisanal way of working. And I think there will still be a need for that. I mean, at the end of the day, we need variety, right? All things being equal, then what's the value, right? There's going to be reasons. It may not be clear today, but I think it will become clearer. All right, so again, one of the driving factors, I'm not an economist, so please forgive me if I pick the wrong charts, but if someone has a better chart, please say so. Why are we here? This particular Fred graph is the labor force participation rate, so the people out there working, right, in all fields here in the U.S. And the point here is it went up, then it went down. We kind of know what happened here. COVID, right? So, I don't know. What was that, a 3?
What does participation mean exactly?
Not unemployed and can
That's
work.
all? Just-
I think so. I think, there's like a handful of, right from here to here is all the actual details, but it's more or less what it amounts to.
I thought unemployment rate was only 5, 6, 7%.
Yeah.
You got over 30% at the high
This is
point.
retirement as well, right? People not working, not looking for work.
Yeah, so unemployment, I think, is technically defined as all willing and able bodies that want to work.
Whereas that's 100% of
Which
everybody?
I
Yeah.
think this one is, like the actual participation in the market.
Okay. That
Yeah.
makes more sense.
So even if just, may not be obvious, but it's only a couple of percent here, that jump when you have 100, when you're talking about millions of people of a population of 360 million people is a lot. And so now the concern is we are still, well, let me ask you. Remember, kind of two themes here. There's the individuals and technology, how it makes us productive or not. And then there's these larger concerns as a society. As individuals, this looks maybe bad, but was it bad for everybody? Like, who benefited from this as an individual?
I got to go to work. I had to go to work. I was in the healthcare. I worked in a hospital. So in a way, I benefited, but it was super stressful
Yeah.
because of COVID.
So what was the benefit? So you were there
So-
before COVID, I assume.
Yes. So the benefit was it was a lot quieter. There was fewer. We couldn't have visitors. So it was just the benefit for me was that it was just quieter in society.
Mhm.
So I just appreciated that. I mean, I fed on the rapid workplace, but when everything had to shut down, it was like a big sigh of relief, even though at work it was super stressful.
So for you, was just on the tech front, was there any particular tech at that time that
Oh, I see.
was good or bad? That helped or hurt that?
It actually hurt because we were spending more time with the tech than we were with the patients. But we had to spend time with the patients, right? And then go do the tech part.
Okay.
So that's why it was stressful.
Right, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, so a couple of things. So 2020, that's COVID, right? That's what you're pointing out, right? I also noticed 2008, there was hardly a blip there. I mean, that was a great big deal financially, in that time period. But what I remember most at the start of COVID was you couldn't find a bloody mask or a protective gear or things like that. That was the, I don't know if you call that tech or not, but low tech stuff that was missing at that point.
So anyone know why that was? To your point, it's just the mask. Can't we just make it?
And we weren't pulling it in at that point, you know? That's what I saw. Well, there's that too, yeah, yeah.
I just said the president sold all of our stock to China.
You asked what benefited. I mean, Zoom Technologies was one, right?
Right.
A lot of, I mean, the COVID thing forced everybody online, and it also amplified online shopping for groceries, especially when people couldn't go to the store.
Yep.
Those are very
Great
true.
points.
Very true.
Actually, sorry, right before you start, to your comment on the recession, that's what these groupings was meant to like highlight those kind of
There's
events.
just not much action there, though.
Yeah, well,
I thought a lot of people lost their jobs then. Okay.
So we became, does this actually work?
it's recording for the camera. Yeah,
Posterity.
yeah, we have a loudspeaker, but too many things.
I've never seen that before. So it's cool.
There's a mask thing on it, but I was lazy.
Oh, okay. So basically the idea was we became very dependent on tech, and then it was hard to leave after. So I know a lot of people were frustrated and decided, oh, let's go back to normal life, but normal life wasn't normal anymore, and we got used to doing everything online. But I think the main concern was privacy. Like, my phone knows my life very well now, and it didn't know that before COVID. But because I had to do everything on my phone all of a sudden, like my phone can predict what I need to do next better than I can.
I mean, that's good when it works, right? Yeah.
It's good, but it's dangerous.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. See the stickers, Internet Society. Yes.
To sort of combine those, I think telehealth is also something that benefited. I think in the beginning it was kind of clunky, but having everyone work from home and need better like video communications, I think really helped out with also making it safer for healthcare. Because you know, like before COVID, there was probably like 1 or 2 companies that did it. Now there's probably like 6 to 10. So I think that's probably a major benefit too.
Yep.
Well, I was very impressive during that time that a big company, like first of all, the pharmaceutical companies benefits because of the vaccine. And the second tier will be delivery company like Uber Eats and like a drone company. And a retail industry as well, the Costco. Check the Costco's stock market performance. What else? Shopify. So everybody, stay with the online shopping.
Right.
So Shopify, you can check the stock market.
That's right. That's the proof.
So one big thing I remember back at that time was, since in-person things dropped off, commuting became very simple because people were at home. They weren't driving. So I think we saved a lot of gas, but you could get on the freeway and you could actually go somewhere at 8 a.m. in the morning as opposed to at other times. And it took a long time for it to come back. I mean, it's still going where some people are now, come in 2 days to the office, 3 days to the office, things like that. I mean, that took years to reverse that, really. And it's not totally reversed even still, I think.
That's right. I think you're right.
I was just going to bring up one thing. Where my mind went was, I wonder what energy consumption looks like over the course of the same time period in production. Because even I think as participation goes down, does the use of technology and that decrease, or did it, as people have mentioned here, actually increase in consumption?
A few bullet points on that coming up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add to the change of jobs. Before COVID, I traveled 100% of the time for years. COVID happened, and within 1 week, I did not travel again for about 5 years.
You mean travel away from home?
For work.
Yeah, but I mean out of town travel, not commute travel.
I always commuted to wherever I was going, usually Europe or the East Coast. But yeah, it went from 100% to 0 just like that. And it never went back. And, people, it's kind of weird. Like for me, doing the consulting, we would, not to puff up here, but we'll say we do higher end consulting and we would charge a lot for that. But that's why they wanted you in person. The whole one hand to shake, one neck to break kind of thing, right? But then COVID happened and they're like, nah, you were expensive. So they're like, you could do it virtually. And I personally, as much as I love computers, I can't stand doing things virtually, but we'll do it because I also like to eat. So yeah, I'm very aware of.
That's blasphemy to say that you can't do it. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, on the institutional side, if less people are doing things, again, think of Social Security, which is funded by your wages, what then, right? With all this automation, what do we do about this? All right. So part of the theme of the talk is, just getting us thinking about individuals and how we can do more, and also the things that come together like Social Security. All right, so take a look at this. All right, so that's Mr. Dot. If it's not obvious, he got some notoriety from this marathon, but he's also famous in we'll say the visually impaired community for all the other things he does. He is very prolific around Braille art and just spreading the word and getting people involved and just helping businesses use it to help others. And so I like this because this tech is one that keeps coming up in our circles here in the Valley. Is anyone here using smart glasses? Can I make a joke? Yeah. If you wore glasses and you're smart? Everyone's like, no, not me. Yeah, so why not? If they are smart, why are we not using them?
Privacy.
Privacy? Not enough benefit, so what are the purported benefits?
I just said I don't think there's enough benefit to wearing them. If there was enough benefit, we'd all be wearing them.
You're just saying you just haven't been convinced.
I have not been convinced
Okay.
there's enough benefit. I
All
don't
right.
see a use that to me is worth it.
So maybe for Mr. Dot, this one-off thing
if I-
could be
If I was
okay.
blind, I could see some value.
Right.
Yeah.
I do use smart glasses, and it can be very helpful. For example, you're walking around and you see something and can communicate with your glasses, which is communicate to your phone. So you have a question, and your glasses can answer you. So it's very convenient in many cases. So I do enjoy it.
Is there a case that would convince others? Anything come to mind where you're like, yeah, I'd get it if it did that?
I think my personal reluctance around something like smart glasses is personally the same reason I don't wear a smart watch, which is that it's not really bringing anything new to the table. It's really just giving me the same features that my phone already has, and I would much prefer just have one single device that I'm not going to accidentally sit on in the car and break or something. And when you take out your phone and like hold it in front of you, everyone knows, okay, this person is filming now. It's a very kind of implicit social contract of, oh, okay, this person is collecting footage and we are all aware of that now. Whereas with something like this, while I can totally see the specific benefit in this exact use case, I don't want someone walking around with glasses that can just like scan me whenever and not tell me about it. Like if someone is recording me in my immediate space, I want to know about it.
Sorry, that's the world we live in.
Yeah, I agree with privacy as well, but I also think it's a personal preference. Like some people might not wear glasses, and so it's not something that they immediately think of as, oh, I should go and look for the glasses, unless they're interested in the technology, but maybe it doesn't look good on them or something, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right. Very good. All right. Well, we'll see one more example in just a moment of this. So here's that app he was referring to. So Be My Eyes, simple setup. You just download the app. You get on there, and you could either be a user of the service, or you can volunteer to be someone's eyes. So for me, I think this is a great example of a simple, they didn't make it overly complex, a simple interface that can be used, right? And even though it's meant for the visually impaired, to me, this even has other values. Now, I don't think people use it for this. Like, they don't just like, hey, I'm trying to build this IKEA furniture. Can you help me find the missing link here? But maybe they would help. They're not verifying whether you have issues. But I don't know. I think it's just one to-the-point example of being useful for a particular kind of problem.
I have a very strong sense of identity in my blindness.
A woman puts on a pair of Ray-Ban Meta glasses. She grins. The glasses have a sleek black frame and an integrated camera.
One of the misconceptions that people have about blind people is that we don't care about how we look or the way we present ourselves to the world. The Ray-Ban Meta glasses allows me to still look fashionable and be able to do the task that I need done as a blind person.
Hey Meta, call a volunteer with Be My Eyes.
Calling a volunteer. Hey there, how can I help?
Hi, I just got a new record player and I wanted to see if you can help me figure out which of these buttons turns it on.
Absolutely. I think it's the one on the bottom.
This one here?
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect, thank you.
She moves to the rhythm.
Being able to connect with a human through the Be My Eyes call feature makes a world of difference.
She looks through some letters. How can I help?
Hi, I'm going to a salsa night later today.
I'm able to ask follow-up questions and get more detailed information.
Try the next one. Found it. She holds a salsa night invite.
The benefits to using Be My Eyes through the glasses is being able to be hands-free. As somebody that uses a cane, I love being independent. That makes a huge difference.
Getting ready to party.
Hi, I was wondering if you could just give me a spot check to see if I missed anything. Yes, I'm taking a look. You look amazing. It looks perfect. Oh, thank you so much.
Some of her friends also use the Ray-Ban Meta glasses.
I'm already like a very active, extroverted person, and I feel like the glasses help me be able to be that even more. I think the Ray-Ban Meta glasses will make a huge difference in people being able to use the tools that they need to live the lives that they want to live.
It's also the night away. Meta logo, a blue infinity sign. Be My Eyes logo, a group of lines of different lengths placed in a circle.
All right. Anyone more convinced now to get glasses?
I think that's a great application. volunteers versus the blind people there.
Right.
I get a call like every 4 months just because they go so quick. Like usually a call is like 5 volunteers, and then if you don't pick up quick enough, it's
They go
somebody else got
somebody
it.
else.
But yeah, it's a fun, it's a good app to use.
I never heard of that, but that's really.
Yeah, it takes
really
2
neat.
minutes.
Any other insider information?
It takes 2 minutes to download. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Like helping
How did
people.
you hear about it?
Just randomly through Reddit, I think, and then yeah, I've helped people pick out stuff at a CVS, and then like the curtains are asking what kind of color they were, which I wasn't very helpful because I'm colorblind, but
Let me call someone.
yeah, let me call somebody else. But yeah, it's a great app.
Oh, awesome. Good for you. That's great. All right.
Actually calls a person. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, like they'll call in person, keep my eyes, we answer, and usually if I don't even answer time, somebody else will pick it up. So.
Yeah, so it's great. So because we're at Google, couldn't not leave it at Meta here. There, there is updates coming. This is a blog just from a couple months ago. Funny enough, when I actually mentioned healthcare and stuff when we were negotiating like the topic, their lawyers were like, "You're not going to announce our next glasses." I'm like, I don't even know that. Like, no, of course not. So it took a couple of months to settle that, but it's all good now.
The question I have around this, which it's an open question, which is something like this, healthcare application, but is it covered by HIPAA privacy laws? Like, are the people bound to it? I have a notion that there's a carve out in this scenario, which I think is going to become like the open privacy question that starts happening.
Interesting. Yeah, so I mean, highlight here is actually the words, right? There is a market for this, and it keeps evolving. We've had glasses, then they went away, and now they're back. We've had different form factors. You know, I personally think they're here to stay. They'll keep getting better, but please.
Well, I was going to comment, first of all, on the HIPAA privacy. I think that in medical healthcare, that's very important. But separately, though, I recall when Google Glass first came out, there were applications in manufacturing where, in fact, they were giving instructions to people on the factory floor on repairs. Was that true? I mean, I don't know whatever happened with Google Glass, but I know when they first came out, they were trying to find commercial business applications that made financial sense, right?
Yep.
So on the factory floor was a big one, or things like that.
Yeah, they did. I don't represent Google, but they did, and they weren't the only ones. Actually, Apple did as well. And then Honeywell also has their own. Samsung has their own. And there's other specialized optics, like people who make like night vision for like the military. They also do things like this as well.
So there has been some market. It's just pretty focused.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
I don't think these are advertised enough. Like I've never heard of this actually until now, and I'm
Which part?
like the smart glasses, and I think I'm techie enough.
Yeah, it's definitely not. It's because they come out and they're not the smash hit, so they kind of quietly. So yeah, it's definitely not as advertised as, you know, AI. But like, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, like Apple's problem was it was too heavy, right? You have this very heavy leaning forward thing. Yeah, there's I won't say his name, but there's a hackerspace in San Francisco called Noise Bridge in the Mission. There's a gentleman, and there's probably more than one, but a certain gentleman who has been building his own for years. And you remember said gentleman? He not only built his glasses, he has his own like custom keyboards that he hangs from his side. So he just talks to you and does whatever. And so he let me try them on. Like we had terminals open, just coding away. And this has now been years. So it's not that this is new. And quite frankly, his was more like this than what Apple and others have done. And that was almost the 50th anniversary for the IEEE party. Yeah, it's on like 4 years. Like this is not new. I think they're really arguing over like form factor and privacy, like these other things. I think it's less about the tech itself. than those issues. Not saying it's more or less important, but I think that's kind of where the battle is. All right, so again, there's so many things that you could talk about with tech and helping, just again, focusing on the vision. Vision impairment is still going up. Not really gonna get into reasons why, but this is just to highlight we do need solutions, right? We do need things to help people. And again, back to that prior slide of participation rates dropping. If, I can imagine in a world where there's macro level, you can touch things and do things with partial vision. Imagine you're coding, right? That's got to be harder to see all the little things and do all these things, right? So to help those people, having these kinds of tools work. In fact, a slight tangent here, I'll just mention is you may or may not have heard of something called OpenClaw. So it's an AI agent that got really popular. In theory, it was easy to install on your computer to send emails and check your schedule and all that. Total privacy invasion and not easy to use. Not easy at all, and very not easy to understand how it works. One of the things I noticed what it was claimed for, to me actually was not good, was it was the first agent to have like a chat interface. So like Telegram, WhatsApp, you could talk to it, right? So like Codex and Claude and those tools from the big labs, they didn't have at that time, you couldn't use WhatsApp to like talk to Codex and be like, hey man, do this thing for me, right? So they came later. And so what I noticed was just the simple usability thing. You'd ask for results and imagine you got like a big table, right? But you're on your phone on WhatsApp. You'd only see, if you're lucky, you'd see it maybe truncated, but that's not even what you saw. What you would see is the results just word wrapped, line wrapped. So you just get this horrible experience through what's considered like the gold standard of chat interfaces, right? WhatsApp and all that. So what that means is like, you could just truncate it, right? To make it look at least partially nice, the results, but you may be missing the key part, right? So how do you or the agent know what is the key part? So that leads to things like semantic compression, right? Stuff that you don't learn in school. How do you even do that, right? And so, there's theories on like, what does it mean to take this big unstructured thing of data and get to the point for this size screen, right? So all those tools have to be developed, and I presume those same kinds of tools will help this community of, we're down to one screen now. It's back. Yeah, so anyway, it's going up. It's a problem to be solved. The value of the loss is quite large, right? And so when it comes to just humans and capabilities, I tried to find a term to like describe these technologies, because they're not all equal in what they do and not when they're used, I would say. So after much thinking, I've kind of categorized them into these categories. Thank you, AI, for being my artist. So restoration, and then augmentation, and enhancement. So if you have tech, where would you fall in this? And this may help you think about if you were going to build something, where you may focus, right? So restoration, so you couldn't, probably a bad example here, but you couldn't see something, right? So Be My Eyes is an example of getting your capability back to where it should be normally, right? So this is, think of it like plus and minus. You've lost some capability here, right? Here, you're actually improving what you got, right? And then in theory, this is meant to be like something new, right? Something that you would never get just by multiplying what you currently have, right? Like strength, you already have strength, right? Now you just got more strength. You're never gonna see, x-rays, right? You'd have to have something else. So anyway, there's just ways to group these things. And the reason I came up with this is because I was looking for examples, and oddly enough, even in today's news-filled world, it's actually hard to find things like augmentative technology. Yeah, it's like, I want the exoskeleton, right? Like in Japan, there's that example of the airbags for old people, right? You wear this airbag system, and when you fall, it goes off right before you hit the ground, and you live, right? Yeah, and I think that's great. Like, why is it so hard Now, of course, that probably implies they don't mass manufacture it, and that's probably why you don't find it. But that's the kind of things I hope we get more of and we can get. Patrick?
Yeah, in Ukraine, I saw an article where they had exoskeletons for the guys loading artillery into the big guns. So, and they could lift. They had to. These things weigh, I think, 50 kilograms each. So they had to, and they have to lift a lot of them, obviously. So, yeah, that's really in production, really in active work. So. Well,
for the 4th of July is the only reason we need it. Yeah. Yeah. So from these kind of categories, does anyone have any ideas of what you think might be? What could we add? You know, we know there's people who have less capability for one reason or another, but what could we add, you think, to like give us the most bang for our buck?
Something for arthritic hands to augment my capability.
And what might that be? Like a 6th finger? Or a replacement of all fingers? Like
well, something so it wouldn't hurt so much when
pain control?
Yeah, so right now I just have to wear braces to either prevent it from getting worse.
But how does that do that? Does it slow you down so you don't like do as much to cause it, or like how does that work?
I think it prevents me from moving hyper movement, so it agitate it. So it supports my joints better. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe even a more passive kind of thing. I mean, you're doing it now, right? Does it help?
A little bit.
Little. And so.
I would like more support, but I don't want my hands to look like I've got skeleton.
Iron Man gloves. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, I'll just say one thing about gloves. Back in the 90s, I worked on a project where it was a brain surgeon had paid our group to develop tools to help brain surgery, surgeons practice. And so back then the issue was you can get a 3D brain printed, but it was like $10,000 a gallon for the whatever liquid they would shoot the lasers in to print it. So even for them it was expensive to try, right? And so we tried a variety of things. Like we had a boom with a scalpel where it acted like a robot to give you some kind of haptic feedback. And then at the time, probably the most bleeding edge was different alloys were paired up to go along your fingers and have these gloves. And then you would zap it to force it to bend, right? Memory-shaped alloys, right? And so there may be something. I mean, they've been working on, that's the reason to bring it up, is there's things that, I guess they need to know if it's hurting you. I don't know how you get that information. Maybe some kind of neural link it would be the next step, but maybe. Okay. Any other tech? Yeah.
Well, I mean, robotic surgery is already a very big deal, certainly, with a lot that can be done. I talked to an intuitive surgical person recently, and they're adding more force feedback there to it, so that what's going on, in the body is transmitted back to the person utilizing it. Force feedback, very, very important. This kind of thing of capability, people that can't walk, people that are missing limbs, tons of stuff like that, making me stronger. That could be useful.
It's a plus.
You got to watch out with your airbag thing, though. Think about a false activation of that when you're climbing off the train or something. Well, that might not work.
Yeah.
So you got to have some care there, but it could be a good thing, certainly. I mean, right now my watch says it looks like you've fallen. Are you okay? That's the more low-key version of it, then.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm all for the improvements. I mean, I'll just say it. I had a robotic heart surgery 7 years ago. At the time when they told me I had to have surgery, I was like, you could do this, this, or this. And I'm like, the barbaric way, the less barbaric way, or the robotic way. Yeah. And they're like, robot is so-so on the results. And I'm like, well, but it turned out the guy who did it was considered like the top robotic surgeon, heart surgeon in the world. I'm like, and everyone was like, yeah, if he's the one doing it, help it, like, go for it. So I went with it, A-okay, but like, I'll tell you what, that was a weird point. I was like, robot? Like, what? Well, it did all the cutting, so, yeah.
You had a surgeon.
Yeah, he's there watching it, yeah. It's not fully automated, but it's more than it was.
It's minimally invasive, that's the big part.
Yes, which is, yes. But very interesting, yeah. Lots of follow-up on that tech with those guys. All right, so, sorry. So yeah, so, we were thinking about individuals. Now, if we all group up, groups, institutes, whatever you want to call them, what's going on with these guys? So again, back to Social Security. So universal benefit, running out of money, right? I know no one's going to care, but it took me a long time to animate that. So that's the report on why the Social Security Administration is going to run out of money. I did not think it would take as long as it did to make an animated GIF out of it. But point is in 2035-ish, it's starting to go downhill. And in basic terms, it means the current prediction is 75 to 85, they don't know yet, % of people will, or sorry, make sure I say this right, you will get 80% of your benefits versus 100% of your benefits, starting in 2032, 33, 34, somewhere around there. So there's the estimates on how bad it's going to be or not. And again, one of the premises of, without getting into too much history because we don't have a ton of time, I tried to find something that everybody would kind of understand, but what also had a good history on its evolution. The history of Social Security out of the New Deal back in the 30s led to the old age insurance, which then became Social Security and a bunch of variants over the years. It's actually a really good example of where you did something without tech, right? We want to support people in their old age, but you then needed to actually do it. Like, again, go meet people, convince people this is a good thing, track people, and that's actually where a lot of the actual problems came from. At the end of the day, what's been helping and hurting is the actuarial modeling. And that's only as good as the assumptions of the person doing it, the actuarialating, if that's a word, and the data that they have, right? And so you would think over the years this would become a better thing. And so those models, again, they try to make predictions, they try to include things that make sense. They failed to predict that the population was going to go down, right? And they didn't adjust it in time, right? And there's various reasons these things are happening. And it's not that there hasn't been course corrections when there's new ways of getting data and new sources of data, but it's a political thing too, right? Ultimately, politics has to come into play and you actually have to execute these things. So at the moment, nobody really thinks that we're going to lose benefits in 2030. They think between the next cycle and the cycle after that, they will make an adjustment somehow. But nonetheless, the question is how? Like how do we get more data, more predictable data to do these things? Here, for those who may not know, these are showing kind of the categories of who gets benefits. So over the decades, it wasn't everybody, right? So survivors, widows, right? Somebody dies. Does the survivor get 2 benefits or 1 benefit or some hybrid benefit, right? What if they have kids, right? Disability and the like didn't come till, like, it kind of misleads a little. This didn't come till the 70s, right? We didn't get Medicare, we didn't get disability insurance with Social Security umbrella until the 70s. And parts of the reasons were, we'll see in a minute, got to do with how do you prove it? Do you just give benefits to everyone all the time? So that's coming up again with UBI and things like that. We'll touch on that in a second. Or do you prove someone needs it? Right, so not for everybody, most people today, but still not everybody. And we're not always funded. So this is a great book. I've read a lot of things. And there is also Social Security History Museum, if you are ever so enticed to go check it out. But this is a great book written in the 70s and actually has predictions about what will happen in the 80s. And this is, of all the kind of past talks I've done, I like to look at what people thought then and what they implemented then and how it's kind of panning out now. And this book was incredible, like great, simple read, who was involved, why they're involved, how, for Social Security, they relied on experts. So for decades, they had, simplifying it, a handful of experts were the ones who came out with the models, the predictions, sold it to the legislative entities, convinced them to do the things, were very even-handed. They knew if they could remain stable, the politicians are going to come and go. So it's one of the few institutions where they played the long game. They're like, well, from the beginning, they wanted everyone covered. Just survivors, disabled, everybody. But they couldn't do it on day one, right? And so they had to convince people over time. They kept that message. And it's just a great example of managing politics. So in the case of the tech here is who gets the money and how, right? So who does get the money to fund Social Security? Because it ain't the Social Security Administration. Cool. Yes, the Treasury Department, right? Yeah, so they get to look like the good guys, right? The SSA is like, we give you the money, right? It's the other guys who go take it from you, right? But that's what this is all about. This is what the argument has always been, right? It's a regressive tax, progressive benefits, right? We're forcing your money to come our way, and we're doing what we want with it. And some people do not like that, right? But as a whole, I think most people say this is good. This graph is another one showing you we're going to run out of money to give full benefits. By the way, this trust fund is also highly contentious. So when SSA started, you don't see it here because it's 83, but when it very first started, all the money was new, right? So it had to go somewhere, goes to a big trust fund, and they basically assumed people were going to raid the trust fund, right out of the gate. So there was pushes right out of the gate to never have a trust fund. It was just, this would be a funding system. And again, what does this got to do with tech? Well, the question in my mind is with things like AI and robotics and all these things, if they're doing the work, but we're the ones who fund it, those things don't fund it, right? So what happens now if we're doing less work and less funding and they're doing no funding and more work, right? Like this seems to be accelerating. And so what do we do about that? So maybe that's the question. What do we do about it? What could we do about it? Strike?
Tax the robots.
Tax the robots? There you go. So not an income.
I think in Germany they have a robot tax. When they introduce any automation as part of the manufacturer, and if it displaces an employee, they have to pay.
Well, that's a corporate tax, though. I mean,
Yeah.
The robot doesn't do it.
The robot doesn't, but the company that tried to replace the employee
Right.
have to pay for that.
And does that seem fair, equitable, something we should consider?
Could be a starting point, a bridge. Now when we are talking about the age of abundance, still we all don't know how that age of abundance will be defined. It's defined later, but at least somewhere we have to start.
That's right. So there's just another example, maybe something more specific to here in the Valley. There's the No AI group that's going around, and one of their kind of sponsors is the Uber drivers, right? So they're, to unionize, and they're like, hey, we're out of a job, and you can't put us out of a job. But then the argument is, why? Right?
Absolutely.
So the why for them is like, well, we provide a service, we get to help the community, we benefit from it. It's all these pluses, but then the usual counter argument comes down to why? You weren't there before 2008.
Right.
Like, and even you can talk about any tech, right? Before 1940, there was no programmers, right?
That's right.
Like, so do we really have to have this job? Like, what's the right
No.
Even if you take out morality, just pure math-wise, it didn't exist. Like, what's wrong with having a bus take people,
Yeah.
right? And that's no one ever seems to have good answers either. Either way.
Uber drivers should not have guaranteed employment for life. I mean, they may get replaced, by other things. And they weren't even there 20 years ago, right?
No.
There were no Uber drivers. So find something new. My question is on the Social Security trust fund, that kind of thing. How's it done in Europe? There's socialized medicine. There's there's benefits ongoing. How do they fund it? I've never really looked at that.
I won't claim to be an expert because I focus more in the U.S., but in general, it's just higher taxes. The higher taxes cover all the things, especially the biggest cost for Americans is the health care at that age. And I do know a little bit more about that. And it's not single payer, but here, from what I gather, and you're more of an expert than me, what I have gathered in researching for this, the biggest, if you have to pick one issue, is our insurance companies are for-profit and theirs are not well, they have for-profit, but they have to work in a very structured way versus what we do here. And
healthcare is far more expensive.
but that's the genesis of the cost, is they can pick who they accept to some degree. That changes depending on where you're at. And then the fact that they're for-profit alone seems to be the number one talking point of why it's so much more expensive here than, say, Europe or other places.
In Europe, it's more like a co-op, and then you pay higher taxes. I mean, I lived in England, and in the UK, you don't think about going private. You just go to NHS. There's really nothing else, and if there is, it's usually not good.
So they're the payers. Like NHS is the payer, but there's still different insurance available. But depending on Germany, England, depending on where you are, like you may not have a choice, and if you, the employer will do it for you, and if you don't pick the employer, will pick it, and you just have it, right? Even if you lose your job, then the government pays for it, and you don't, and that's the social benefit of it. But of course, in America, we love to say it's socialism, and it's the end of the world. But that's right.
I think, like what you said, all the insurance companies are for profit. In US, we spend close to 20% of our budget for healthcare, but it doesn't translate to the quality care what the citizens should get.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's kind of like the range of numbers. Like we'll spend like 20%. In Europe, it's 6%, right? Absolutely. Yeah, so this is a little bit on that history, just showing you that over time, how it evolved with Social Security. Kind of mentioned here that, took years to take the form that we know. It started in the 30s. Kind of, I would argue, Social Security as we kind of know it, more or less was there in the mid-70s, right? And then we've been tweaking things since that time. And so these are the things they usually are always arguing. Change the retirement age, change the wage rate, right? Those are pretty much the only levers you have. But again, where does tech come into this? The tech comes in is where does this come from? And then there's also tech here. You're living longer, generally speaking, right? Be optimistic here. You'll live longer. So again, tech is here. It is affecting us. And so, again, just focusing on Social Security, what are other things you could do? Again, the means test. So for those who don't know what that is, the means test just means, do you have the ability to fund yourself? If you do, then we're not going to fund you, right? There's no reason to give rich people a $1,000 check a month when they won't even know it's in the mail, right? So that's kind of what this is about. So this was much less debatable, the financial means. Like, how do you tell a farmer in the Dust Bowl is poorer than the rich person in New York, right? They're like, all right, let's not fight that one. This one was way more contentious, right? Because people would come back and, they get fired and then they'd be like, oh, my ankle hurts. Give me disability, right? So this one never actually happened, right? It was debated. It's still debated today. It's been debated since the very beginning. SSI, which is one of the pieces of Social Security actually does have a disability test. And this actually is a difference between Europe and us. They have gatekeeping way more than us. We think we have gatekeeping, but Europe's medical system is way more. You go to your GP and they're like, we will not recommend you for a specialist, right? Doesn't mean you can't, you just have to do more work there than here. So that gatekeeping keeps costs down. And so here, actually I'll just ask a trivia question time here. Who was the biggest opponent to Social Security?
Rich people.
Who else?
Employers.
So, union was for it. I would have said it personally. I would have, before I studied all this, I would have said insurance, private insurance. But they realized quickly early on that if they spoke up too much, because they're already kind of regulated, they're like, oh, we're just going to get more regulated. So we're just going to shut up and be like, okay, even though we don't want it. Turns out it was the AMA, the doctors. They were the most animate. It wasn't even close for decades. They were always against it. And their argument is that once the government is there, they're going to tell them how to do their job, right? And then they thought healthcare benefits will go down.
You know, when we were talking about Europe, I was going to say the problem is the doctors get paid too much in the US that they will refuse anything else. Versus in the UK, for example, the salaries are regulated and they're, you know, manageable. So that makes total sense to me because if you try to go to a doctor on some government-funded insurance, they're going to try to get rid of you, like simply.
Right. Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the kind of things you have to think about. There's, again, with society, there's lots of groups. And now, again, I want us to think more about the tech stuff, but there's all these other groups with their own reasonings. And how do you influence those? And that's maybe one challenge I would say to everyone is, if you want to change the world, you need to go find these groups and figure out ways to convince them. And quite frankly, we have more tools now to do that than we did before. It's still not easy, but it is somewhat doable.
Can I ask you one thing on your means test? I've never been rich enough that this applied to me, but I know that Social Security income is taxed. Is it taxed to such an extent that if your income is high enough, you basically won't receive any Social Security, you'll pay it back in taxes? I think right now a rich person gets Social Security too, but it may be highly taxed is the thing.
No, they do. It's they do get it. I don't know the tax brackets though. The biggest taxing I am aware of was just how much of your income was taxed, and it used to be 40%, 70%. Now it's basically 100% for everybody.
Your billionaire really doesn't need Social Security.
Correct. Yeah, well, that's the argument. But this is also another one of those, what do they call it, a vertical issue, where the rich people go ahead and argue whether or not we should get Social Security, because we don't care. Right. So if that's going to keep you all occupied all day long, go ahead. Like, $1,000, I don't care. Right? So yeah, exactly. They don't need it, but it keeps other people distracted. Patrick.
They paid in just like everyone else. They already paid for it. They should have it.
Yeah, but well.
Sorry, the rich people paid into it as well.
Yeah.
So, and that was actually one of FDR's original arguments for why it was structured like that. So if it was a thing that you paid into and you got the money back out afterwards.
That's right.
Yeah.
But
So-
also, if you're rich today, you will not be rich when you're 60.
Yeah, but this is before it went broke.
No, but they paid.
Yeah.
Well, it's
I-
going broke for other reasons, but.
Yeah, but that would extend it. You got to admit that would extend it out for sure.
So I agree in theory, but I mean, that's also part of their responsibility to the society is.
Yeah, it's both those. The practicality is just from, at least in the U.S., the argument was Americans don't want to feel like they're getting a handout. It's like you paid in, you get money out. That's the story, right? But then it's the social aspect, like you're helping other people out, right? Like, yeah, it's not just you.
There's been this huge transfer of wages and money from workers to corporations, and there hasn't, everything's all on the workers are going like this and the employment's going like that, but it's not about working these days. It's about rent extraction via being a company, and therefore there's a bit more contribution on that side would bail out Social Security.
I mean, just tapping on your point, but that's not what I wanted to say. But tax them more and then pay them. You can do that. But anyways, you were asking how do we use tech to convince people, but I think, so I don't understand the technology per se with that, but my phone, like when I'm contentious about something, my phone keeps sending me articles to convince me one way or another.
Yes.
And that's one way.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's just that. Just as a tiny example. I mean, some of us run around in the same circles, and our groups have tens of thousands of members, and we can just email them, right? And it sounds, I'm not trying to simplify it, but usually the reason people can't convince anyone of anything is because you just don't try, right? You don't have a plan, you don't have a mission. You have tools to do that, right? We have planning tools. You've got AI to tell you how to do it, right? It's just more something that can be automated. One problem is, who do you even talk to, right? Like, for example, someone will want to go talk to the mayor. Well, most of the time you can't reach the mayor. You got to go to their head of staff, right? But how do you find them, right? I don't want to say it was hard 20 years ago, but now it's very easy, right? And so it's all those things can lead you to having the ability to do a little more than maybe what you could do before on the sidelines. All right, last couple of minutes here. I think, what does my smart watch say? So yeah, Social Security is just one thing. From a process point of view, they started with this is for taxes actually, the 4-minute men. Anyone hear of this? So back in the day, when they were trying to convince people back in the 30s to do income tax, they hired thousands of people to be the collectors of said income tax. But first thing you did was, when you were going to whatever town you were managing, is you gave a 4-minute speech on the benefits of income tax. And apparently this was the thing that actually made people not go crazy against it. They're looking back, they're like, what made I don't want to say made the population docile to taxes, but apparently this got organized, made a same speech, everybody was supposedly the same speech, making it time boxed, they could execute it, and it was convincing enough that it seems to be. Yeah.
Just out. You get an audience. I mean, no preparation, and you just stand up and talk.
Yeah. You were trained to do this, so they had organized training for the people doing this.
Yeah,
but then they went out.
It sounds like there was no ability to bring a crowd, right?
I don't know I don't know if they did it every door to door, got everybody, but yeah.
Never heard of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no email.
Yeah, it's all email, right? So yeah, so people got out there and they beat the street, right? We have other things happening, right? UBI, Universal Basic Income. People are trying for that, especially with all the increase in automation, right? This, as a modern kind of form, was actually originally talked about in 1910, right? So have we made progress on this particular thing? Maybe not as much as some people would like. So it says it can cause inflation because how do all of us get this benefit? Well, we can just print more money, right? And the government sends you a check, right? But doesn't that, on the flip, make everything more expensive because everybody knows you're getting $1,000 a month? So that's usually the argument. But it's still, this is coming back again because of AI, harder this time around, right? I don't have a stance on this. It's just something I wanted to highlight that, from initial just getting people to do anything to a much more complicated story, I would say, and AI just makes this even more complicated, right? And then you got things like this, where I like the meme version of this. A bribe is still a bribe, right? OpenAI says they're going to give 5% ownership to the government, aka leave us alone, right? Yeah. For 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. It's not the first time they've mentioned it, but the latest go around. Anthropic, of course, did it as well. You know, so I mean that's not new, but it's almost kind of like worth thinking about. It's like, all right, like we said earlier on some things, like it might just be worth trying some things. Like, I mean, you want to think in advance, of course, but like, I don't know, like, what do we do? Like whoever gets to the first general purpose, I'm not trying to fearmonger here, but say someone gets to AGI, right? The first agent who can do it all, right? Why would you use anything else? Like all the other companies just go bye-bye. Like, you know, what then, right? And again, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not worried about that, but like it's just something to think about, even just incremental, even if it's just one little industry, right? I mean, I assume many of you are programmers along the way. It's definitely changed how I work. I think it's helped. I actually don't. The only real disadvantage, I think, is what we were kind of half joking about earlier, was being consultants, right? What used to take us weeks now takes minutes. But that also leads to what we're saying about the validation. The proof is now the value. Is it doing what you're doing? So 2 things, you got to have better conversations up front. Like, you want feature X, well, before I build that for you, how much value are you getting out of that? If you're making $1 million, I want 50 grand to do it, right? And then you have to do it and then prove the value. And so maybe these conversations aren't just one-off. Maybe we have to prove that it was worth $1 million. Maybe you have to get paid incrementally until they reach, because they could be wrong too, but like who bears the risk, right? You had very little risk building it because you just go build it. You don't do anything, right? And they're actually taking the risk of using this cheaply built thing and maybe never make the $1 million, right? So somewhere there's going to be plenty of MBA programs revisiting how things are done.
Well, I mean, I've been a consultant for a long time. I think at the bottom end, what you're talking about is whether you charge per hour or you charge per fixed price, per job, per feature. Mm-hmm. That's the thing you're getting towards there, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, that's harder to bill or harder to estimate. You know, billing by the hour is very easy as long as the client is willing to go along with it. But this thing of, putting up, hey, this is going to be 50 grand, you know, and then you go out and do it very efficiently, big upside for you. But this is the thing you have to wrestle with, I think. And you may have something else involved there, too, that you're talking about beyond
well,
just
I think
fixed
it's
price.
the post part. Once you've built it quick and easily because of AI, you have to prove it to them. And I think that's where the tools to verify things, we just don't have them today, right? You make a PowerPoint like, yes, it does what you say, you know, matches what you wanted, right? Like, we need other tools to convince people of it. And I actually think that's the market. Like that one slide with all the, you know, computer evolution stuff, that was actually about, that talk was about just that, was just we are lacking any ability to prove value in what we build, like from a software point of view. Just because someone said it's valuable, that doesn't mean anything, right? You need to actually see it play out and, you know, predict and look in arrears and all those things. Cool. All right. So we're doing more with less. Where's the money? Well, again, production. People don't think America produces anything, at least according to the base year of 2017, which is right about here. We're more or less tapped out. We're doing what we should be doing. Are we doing as much as China or somewhere else? Maybe not, but internally, we're doing pretty good, right? So something to be aware of, not all these metrics are quickly calculated. So like this one, the units of production, how it's tracked, it's actually pretty quick. In the world of federal graphs, they have a number within a couple weeks. They usually have it in a couple days, but they want to verify and do things like that. So again, not all metrics are totally useful. Oops. This is all employees in manufacturing, so thousands of persons, right? So millions here. Big drop, and David had mentioned this a little bit earlier. Here's some of the reasons from the Fed's point of view of why it dropped, right? So productivity improvements, AKA robots, right? China entered the WTO in this period. Again, we're talking about this kind of drop here, right, is the main highlight. Recession, the Great Recession, and then offshoring for various reasons. But that's not necessarily so clear. If you actually go read the article from the Fed, they will say that the productivity improvements even dominate what China did. But you would never know that because we listen to Fox News, right? So yeah, it's an interesting thing. There's been a lot of stuff going on, and I'll never forget, when I was an undergrad in the 90s, one of my professors was doing computational geometry. And I grew up on a farm, and I'm like, is that like, optimal cattle placement? like what does that mean? And he's like, no, all we're doing is making a 6-degree arm robot. And he's like, yeah, this is way harder than you think, hillbilly. So, and that was back in the 90s, but then things got better. And tech, I mean, I can only speak to my own experience. Tech, I think, is getting much, much better, even if it's not obvious. Just another one that's actually a little more geeky, not so much valuable in mass production way. I just love to throw some light on their project is Brent Seals from the University of Kentucky, where I went to undergrad. He's been working on reading Vesuvian scrolls for 20 years. So when Pompeii was buried back in 70, 80, or whenever it happened, there was a couple of rich people's houses that had thousands of scrolls. Turned out the ash was so hot, it carbonized them all and didn't obliterate them. So they all stayed in the same shape. But if you try to unroll it, it would fall apart. So they tried a couple hundred years ago, once they found these villas under all this ash, like in the 1700s, and they read a couple, and then they would ruin some, and then they stopped. And so him and a team have been building this laser X-ray thing to read in, to pierce it, and then use AI to unroll it. So they had an announcement a couple years ago that they did their first partial one, and then 2 weeks ago they announced they did their first complete read and there's thousands of more, right? It's so boring. It's like George didn't pay me for the apples. It's there's probably the biggest thing they found was I think where Plato was buried. Okay. They're like, he's under the tree to the left. Yeah. They're like, oh yeah, there's a. Yeah, it's a whole range of things. But again, it was tech. They took years to build. Lots of people got involved. It actually didn't make the next big jump until they did a $1 million challenge. So the guy who created GitHub, Nat Freeman, he got involved, said, hey, I'll fund a challenge. And he's like, if anybody can make this thing better, we'll give you $1 million. Some grad student in Turkey made that next little tweak, and then that's when it really started to come together, right? And so again, just use of tech, doing cool things. I don't know how many burnt scrolls there are to read, but it's.
I was going to say, so much money to get not very valuable information.
I suspect there will be other things, but yeah, it's.
That could be applied to so many things, though, not just the dead scrolls, under ash. I mean, so many things you want to read on the inside that you can't access.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, sorry for the digression there. So these are the two prior graphs, just kind of on the same. Again, just showing where it seemed to be at max production, but less people are involved in that mass production. And that's really maybe the warning here. I hope that I come across as an optimist, but I also don't want to just walk into the future without thinking about things. I think we can benefit from this mass production, right? We need to find ways to, not just monetize it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if I have a robot at my house doing everything for me and there's no money transacting between me and the robot, I don't care, right? But there are, we still need money, right? So until that part of the world changes, we still need to deal with that. So, no answer here, but we are very productive. This isn't new. Ask anybody who works in Detroit, right? They'll probably have something to say about automation, right? think about that warehouse, like a bad story. What was it, San Bernardino earlier this year? That paper warehouse, something like 12 million square foot warehouse, because some guy set one thing on fire because he didn't get a raise or something. Like 12 million square feet. Like, that's huge. Like a huge amount of stuff just, but then you stop and think like, wait a minute, that's bad, but how do you actually fill a 12 million square foot building?
Medical supplies?
No, this is before that.
That's another one.
That was another huge one.
Another huge fire.
Yeah, like just thinking of the logistics of like and all the tech, and they're like, how many people worked there? It was something like 6 people. I'm like, what? They're like, what do you mean 12 million square feet? There's 6 people. They're like, well, we got robots. And I'm like, and I'm, you know, if you stop and think like, okay, then maybe the issue isn't that they don't have more people working there. Maybe we need more buildings, like more 12 million square foot buildings. Like so more people have jobs. Like, I'm not saying that's the answer, but something will have to happen. All right. So yeah, we're living longer. We are collecting more benefits because we're living longer. People are more effective, but there is less payroll, right? That's kind of the, you know, given the threat of the Social Security, that's the thing here, right? Tech is helping and hurting on that front. All right, this is for you to noodle over, all right? So you live in the present. You will change over your life, even though my wife, who is a psychologist, will always remind me personality is stable over life, so maybe you don't change. But you will learn and do things. You adapt, right? But you lose some capability, right? I mean, arguably, you could say you gain capability, right? It's not always bad, right? And then for larger groups or institutes, right, they have all their baggage. You know, that could be from just laws and regulations. It could be like the Social Security Administration. They were very much operating in a way where they were off the books, right? Their experts worked together, right? They had a handful of experts. They had the expert of the unions, of the Treasury, of these different groups, and they were all on the same page. And they just basically sat out all the volatility of politicians. And it worked. It worked until those people became political, right? So for the first 50 years, you know, Altmaier, Ball, all those people, very apolitical. And they're supposed to be. And then all of a sudden, past Reagan, you start getting people who are much more political, and that's starting to influence how these things operate. Right? Slower to change, and you know, if you left here today, my only challenge to you would be all right, say Social Security didn't exist and we wanted to create it right now. What would we do? Would we do what they did, right? Would we just take the wages, you know, some percentage of wages of everybody just the same? Would we go to corporate taxes? Would we just give everybody a Roomba? Like, what would we do, right? Like, so any thoughts, any gut reactions? Or the same? Is evolution the only option? Like, some people believe that. They're like, we can't start over. We have to take whatever good or bad we got with, say, Social Security, and we just have to evolve it. That's just the only way forward. What do you think?
I am not an expert on this, so my opinions may be flawed, but I think the major difference between now and then is that we have much larger, much more affluent corporations that, and I like your idea of the corporate tax, because I think in the original form of this, it made sense that you had to tax the individual, because we didn't have these huge corporate structures that have just tons and tons of money that they don't need. So I think, I mean, I don't have an answer, but I do think that having corporate taxes and basically using the large companies that are, in a huge sense, funding the GDP of countries, have them contribute back to the individuals as well. That is a very uninformed answer, but I think there's something there.
Yeah, it's a good answer.
Yeah.
Don't undermine it.
I just don't have the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can add one thing. You know, currently, yeah, it's the individual, but the employer pays a piece of it too. But again, that's tied to the individual. You know, the employer doesn't pay anything for a non-worker. It's only the worker, then they pay a piece of it. But I think you're right. I think you have to tap into some new revenue source here for it to make it work.
And then tax the rich more. I insist.
I insist. All right.
You're not rich? Is that it?
Exactly.
So I kind of asked this earlier, you know, again, this is more for you to think about. What's helping you, right? I love AI. I am glad it's here. I would never not want it not to be here, but it's definitely something more. And I will say the glasses are a personal thing I am interested in too. I mean, my vision is no worse than anyone else has glasses, but there's just things I would like out of smart glasses. Like I leave my house and because I never plan, I want to go eat and it's a Monday and half the places are closed. And I go, I'm going to go here, closed, here, closed. I'm like, it would be nice if it just is like, here's the ones that are open. Just go follow the arrow, right? Just something simple. That's all I need. I just need a nudge to live my life.
Can't you just ask Gemini? Like, I'll ask Gemini for stuff like that.
Yeah, you can't. I'm just saying, like, that's.
Me in verbally too.
I just wanted to know, like, to the point of your phone just knowing. It's time for dinner. It should just know that I'm walking out the door for a reason, because I want to go eat.
Actually, my phone tells me it's time to eat.
You're ahead of the curve. You're ahead of the curve. All right. So yeah, the other question is on the institutions themselves. Not just institutions, but groups. Like if you're part of a group, is there anything you could do better, right? We have all this technology now. Stop trying to use WordPress. do something better with your time. We have a lot of tech, and I'm not saying reinvent the wheel. Like some people are taking that attitude. I have with my day job, I argue all the time with the guys, like coding today isn't about managing things to the future. It's just build what you want now because this is the only time you got. It's like right now, right? Rebuild it from scratch, give it what they want, and then move on. I don't know if I agree with that, but you know, we have tools to help manage groups and technology. All right, at the end here, please volunteer. The world needs you. Everyone here has got something to contribute. Please do. And that is all. So we got 1 minute late.